Have you ever wondered why certain professions, like engineering or medicine, basically get to police themselves? It's a huge deal, and it's not some automatic right they're born with. It's a privilege. And today, we're going to dig into the story of how that privilege is earned.
So, let's start with the big question. Why on earth are some professions trusted to regulate themselves? It's a really good question, right? And the answer, well, it all comes down to this idea of a social contract. Think of it as this massive, unspoken agreement. It's built on a foundation of trust and one single, incredibly important promise: to protect the public.
Now, this social contract, it wasn't dreamed up in some quiet boardroom meeting. Nope. It was actually forged in fire, or more accurately, in the aftermath of a catastrophic disaster. The whole story of self-regulation, especially here in Canada, really kicks off with twisted steel and a whole lot of tragedy. Just look at this timeline. It's absolutely heartbreaking. In 1907, the first Quebec bridge collapses. 75 workers lost their lives. The cause? Terrible design flaws and not enough oversight. And then, you won't believe it, it happens again. In 1916, the second bridge collapses, killing another 13 people. These weren't just random accidents. They were a massive wake-up call. And that's when provincial governments finally stepped in and said, okay, enough. They created the very first professional engineering associations with one single solemn mission: to make sure this never, ever happens again. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? These disasters just laid it all bare. They showed everyone the incredible danger of having unqualified people doing this work with zero accountability. The public was at risk. And that right there is the reason professional self-regulation was born. Okay, so what is self-regulation when you boil it down? Well, think of it like this. It's a privilege, a deal, granted by the government. The government basically says to a profession, look, we'll let you govern your own members, but there's a huge string attached. Your number one job, your only job really, is to protect the safety, health, and welfare of the public. And this brings us right back to that powerful idea I mentioned earlier, the great social contract. It's this fundamental, unspoken agreement between a profession and, well, all of us, the society it serves. Let's break down what that actually looks like. It's totally a two-way street. On one side, society grants the profession some amazing things: the autonomy to govern its own members and the status and exclusive right to practice. But on the other side, the profession makes some huge promises back to society. They promise to put public welfare above everything else, and they promise to ensure competence, ethics, and accountability. It's a profound exchange of trust. Okay, so promising is one thing, but how does a profession actually deliver on its end of the bargain? How is all this trust earned and, just as importantly, maintained over time? Well, it all comes down to a really rigorous and disciplined system. And here are the nuts and bolts of it. First, they set super high standards. We're talking rigorous assessments of education, experience, and even character just to get a license. Second, they enforce a strict code of ethics, clear rules of the road. Third, and this is huge, they discipline misconduct. They investigate violations and enforce penalties transparently. And finally, they require ongoing learning, making sure professionals stay up to date. It's this constant cycle of accountability that keeps the whole thing running. But here's a really important catch. This power, this privilege to self-govern, it is absolutely not permanent. It's not a right that's set in stone forever.
Yeah, this quote really says it all. The ultimate authority remains with the government. The government is always, in a sense, looking over the profession's shoulder. They granted this privilege, and believe me, they can take it away.
So you've got to see it for what it is: a conditional trust. It's granted by society through its government. And if that trust is broken, the privilege can be revoked. It's really as simple as that. So that begs the question, right? What happens if a profession fails to uphold its end of the contract? What does it actually take for things to go so wrong that the government says, all right, that's it, we're stepping back in? Well, we're not talking about small mistakes. The real threats come from systemic failures. Things like systemic negligence that puts public safety at risk over and over, or a serious lack of transparency in how they discipline their own members, big conflicts of interest, or even just resisting necessary reforms. Any one of these things can completely shatter public confidence, and boom, self-regulation is gone. Okay, so we've been talking about these big ideas: the profession, society, this grand social contract. But let's bring it right down to the individual. What does this mean for you, the professional on the ground? This is where you put your signature on that contract.
Take a look at this number. 1. In basically every code of ethics for Canadian engineering and geoscience, this is the number 1, paramount duty: protect the public. That's it. It comes before your client, before your boss, before your own bottom line. It is always, always job 1.
And at the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. The profession's integrity isn't some abstract thing. It's literally the sum of the choices made by every single person in it. It's your choices. So what does that ethical imperative look like in the real world? It means you accept personal accountability for your work. You put the public's interest way ahead of your own. You champion competence and fairness, and this one is crucial, you have the guts to report unprofessional or unsafe conduct when you see it. So look, if there's just one thing you take away from all this, please let it be this. This is a privilege, not an entitlement. It's not something you just get to have. It has to be earned, and it has to be earned every single day. And that really leaves us with one final crucial question, a question for every single professional and every aspiring professional out there. How will you uphold your end of the contract?